going on, guys? Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you legends are. All right, we got a big episode of Q&A coming up today, full of very spicy questions, which we're going to go deep on. So if you are coming into this one live, guys, you know the drill. Get us in the comments. Let us know you're coming in to watch this one, and we're going to be getting started in a couple of moments with today's Q&A. So, who we got? Who we got in the team? Welcome to all of our new members as well. I want to say a special welcome to our crew out there. We got some new queens and new kings that are joining us over the course of the last week, and it's good to see you guys getting involved straight away. So, how's the week been, team? What's the news? I'd love to hear from you. Hello, Tezza. How are you, mate? Looking very good in that photo, Tez. Very strong, mate. It's good to see. Who else we got? Jeff Cockley. How are you, Jeff? Mate, good to see you in here. You getting warmed up for next week, Jeff? Can't wait, mate. Cannot wait. I'll be adding you guys to a messenger group this morning. To kickstart things off so that we can chat and do our thing, and that's going to happen this morning. All right, so good evening. Whoever good evening is, get up there and hit that link that says restream so that we can see who you actually are. So, I can't see who it actually is. Tell me who you are. Show yourself, fool. So, guys, we're going to be starting this episode in a couple of moments. There are some cracking questions to come through this week, so super pumped about that. Hello, Jen. How are you, girl? Good to see you in here. As always, the ever-present Jennifer Lovegrove. I love having you in here, Jen. You're good company. What's going on, ladies? Are the ladies out of bed? What's happening? I know it's pretty cold back there in Oz, right? So I reckon it's a little bit more challenging than normal to get out of bed, but that's what we do. That is what we do. Who else we got? I'm just looking at Mark Pooley's videos that he puts on here. They're so funny. Marky, I love your videos, mate. Keep coming. Who else we got? Jody, good morning, love. Good to see you in here. Becoming very consistent as well, Jody. We've got to like that. Wendy Beats. What's happening, Wendy? How are you? Lovely to see you in here, Wendy. There's a couple in here using Facebook that I can't say hi to because I don't know who it is. So whoever morning is, you got to authorize the link there above where it says restream. Just click that link and it should be able to refresh your name. Same as 8 degrees this morning. That is chilly. And I'd love to say who it is, but I don't know. So, guys, we're going to get started in 30 seconds. So, as we're warming up for this one, I just want to do a couple of shout-outs. The couple of shout-outs are that we have lockdown in our mastermind. I'm certainly very stoked, guys. It's a cracking little mastermind collection that we've got. I think we're at 15 men and around 12 to 13 women, and it's starting next week, and it's going to be unreal. I can't wait. How pumped are you, Danny Peterson? Good to see you in here, mate. How pumped are you, brother? You ready to really dig into this mindset component? I know that Jeff's ready to go. You can tell them, Tez, they're in for a bit of a treat, a bit of a journey. So I think it's going to be really good challenge that you guys are going to embrace really well, and we're going to create some really good and tight bonds and friendships, and it's going to be excellent. Okay? So that's starting next week. The other thing I did want to mention, guys, is I'd mentioned, or let's say about a month ago, that we were filming a new workshop called the Gym Gains Guide. The Gym Gains Guide is a workshop which is pre-recorded for the purpose of helping to improve your confidence in the gym. And you might remember that I asked a bunch of you to give me some questions. Yes, Amy, that did work. I asked a bunch of you to give me some questions that you would like answered, more basic questions on how to navigate a gym properly. So as promised, the workout is now complete. The workshop is now complete, and I'm going to be releasing that workshop tomorrow, guys. And I really do think that for the guys that watch it, it's going to be excellent. It's going to be really helpful. You're only going to need to watch it once, okay? but it's going to be something that's going to help you to get into a gym and be confident. I reckon someone like Tez, who, had never walked into a gym before, if he had this workshop at the start, he would have watched it and went in with a whole lot more confidence. So if you're not that confident in resistance training, guys, I'm going to be releasing that workshop tomorrow, and it's really, really going to help. Good morning, Amy and Amy. How are you, ladies? And good morning, Kristen. I hope you got my message just in the comments, Kristen. I know it's a very challenging day for you, so surprised to have you in here for company. Guys, let's get stuck into today's Q&A. Let's go. All right. So is it a myth to work out and sweat out a fever? Is it a myth to work out and sweat out a fever? I have never got this question in my life, and I think it's a brilliant, brilliant question. So whoever asked that question, I don't actually see who asked the question, but it's a brilliant question. So is it a myth? So it's true that when we have an infection, and I've got a feeling that this is going to be a lot of us right now, I'm going to move this out of my head, a lot of us right now, particularly being in Australia, a lot of these guys and girls, you're going to be feeling the runs of a cold, right? And so sometimes what happens is if it turns into a fever, basically what happens is your core temperature, or the set point of your core temperature, starts to go up, okay? This is your body purposely raising the temperature to try to get rid of the infection that you've got, because when you raise the temperature, you improve blood flow, you basically create a cascade of hormones that help to fight the invader, okay? And so what happens is, as the set point raises and your body temperature relative to the set point, you start to feel the chills, right? And so that's completely normal. So if you've kind of I know a lot of people have spent the last few days in bed, okay? And I know there's a few sick people out there. And so if that's you, the reason that you feel the chills is because your set point is being driven higher, and at the moment, your body temperature is not there yet. So even though it's not that cold, you feel cold relative to where your body set point wants you to be. Now, on the way down, once your body reaches that set point, on the way down, what can actually happen as you start to win over the infection, the body notices and reduces the set point and starts to bring the set point down. But if your body temperature isn't cooling as quickly as the set point, think of it almost like a thermostat, right? The thermostat takes a while to adjust the temperature up and down. And so what happens is, on the way down, if the set point is lower than your current body temperature, obviously what's happening is you're detecting that as I'm hot. And so that is why you sweat. So you go from having the chills to having the sweats. Does this make sense so far, guys? And so the theory is that if you are starting to sweat, you are starting to get to the end of fighting the infection. And whilst there might be some truth in that, there is no truth in the idea that if you can make yourself sweat more, then you're going to get through the fever quicker. Whether that be through exercise or covering up under a blanket, you sweating more is not going to help break the fever quicker. Okay? So the body has its own regulation of which to do that, to get rid of whatever infection you're fighting. And so going out and smashing yourself in an exercise session is not going to push the infection out of your skin or something that we might have cooked up in our heads. Okay? So that's the answer. I would suggest that, if you are really feeling shit, you're probably better to just take a couple of days off and recover and make sure that you feel a little bit better before then you go out. Let the body spend the energy dealing with the infection or whatever it is that you're suffering. One thing that sort of comes to mind, good morning, Joe and Emily. So one thing that comes to mind is, when you're really, really healthy, you tend to not get sick as much. So I do think that one of the unspoken benefits of becoming healthier, managing your weight better, is that actually you just get sick less. So that's something to look forward to. As you start to rein in the ailments that you feel, you're going to start to reflect that back out through your body a lot more. All right, next question. Why is gummy bears and chocolate milk good after a workout? The short answer is it's not. So I don't know where that one's come from. I think that if you are a bodybuilder that is just I don't know, like maybe needing a really high spike of sugar after your workout, maybe, but definitely not for the regular person. In fact, everyone's sort of laughing a little bit in the comments, but it's a good question and it's asked. Okay, so gummy bears, generally speaking, high in sugar. Chocolate milk is generally very high in fat. Both of these things together are very high in calories. If they are consumed as part of an overall calorie plan, then they're completely fine to have because there's no good food or bad food. There's just high calorie food and low calorie food. However, I don't think that they are a post-workout wonder in any way or shape or fashion. Okay? All right, so next question. Now, this is a question that I love, actually. I'm going to tell you why. I am absolutely a huge fan of coffee. Okay? So, is coffee actually harmful to your health? And I actually think that sometimes this argument is, well, not sometimes, this argument is full of politics. Okay? So it's full of politics because initially it was to spite the coffee industry. Then the coffee industry hit back, and then the tea industry wanted to win over the coffee industry, and now there's just all this bro science out about it. And so I'm going to pin an article if any of you guys want to actually read what the evidence suggests. Coffee is actually seen to be very beneficial for your health. Not bad, beneficial. And so you might ask, well, to what level? Well, most of the recommendations are that the benefits are, or the upper limit that you want to be sitting at is around 400 milligrams per day. So to give you a bit of an idea, I drink about 4, maybe 5 sometimes of these per day. For the fact that it's just way more expensive, I don't generally go and get a whole lot of pre-purchased takeaway coffees. I love instant coffee. I love the other type of coffees as well, but this is just simple. So in 1 teaspoon of, say, Nescafe Gold or something like that, if it's a teaspoon, you're looking at about probably 70 to 80 milligrams of coffee. Okay? So that means that if you're hitting around the 400 grams, well, that's going to come through 4 to 5 grams of coffee, depending on how big the actual cup is, or how big the spoonful is that you're actually using. So one thing I do want to suggest here, though, is for me, I always think that this is an argument between the micro and the macro. What I mean by this is people focus on the thing that they think is the devil, the caffeine, right? Caffeine has been shown to have health benefits. In fact, for most people, coffee is the number one source of antioxidants in their diet, actually. Antioxidants are essentially the compounds of food that go and scrape the rust off your body. That's basically what they do. So oxidation is basically your body becoming rusty like a piece of steel. That's a good analogy of what's happening. Antioxidants actually rub the rust off. And so that is what coffee does. That is what wine does, red wine does, and all of the other antioxidant compounds. So I think the bigger issue is actually, are you having the coffee on what? So I am in the process of releasing a whole bunch of workshops shortly, and one of them talks about the amount of calories in your favorite beverages. And if you're slamming 2 now Starbucks is a big thing over this side of the world. It's not in Australia. But if you're slamming 2 full cream lattes per day, that's about 600 calories if it's on full cream milk. So if you're trying to get in a calorie deficit and you're eating, 2 decent sized Starbucks type coffees. That's a lot of calories that you've got to remove, given that you could have black coffee, which basically has nothing, or you could have an instant coffee and have it on either skim milk or half milk, half water, or some kind of mixture that reduces the overall calorie content, and be able to have many, many more coffees. And then I've also got this opinion as well that people say that, coffee is a diuretic. Well, whilst that may be true to some degree, like if you're making your coffee up on water, you're drinking water. Like, I don't care if it doesn't matter whether I have it like this or I have it like a glass of coffee. I'm still drinking the water and I'm going to piss the water out. So I actually think that if it's the right type of fluid and you're having black coffees, or you're having coffee on instant coffee with a minimal calorie liquid, unsweetened almond milk as another example, it's very good. And it's a great way to make sure that you're not in place consuming a high calorie fruit juice or something like that. It's really funny. A lot of people make the change from, they say, I've given up soft drink. And we're saying, what are you having instead? And they're saying, orange juice. From a calorie perspective, the orange juice is usually, it's as bad as the Coke from a calorie perspective. Obviously, there's many more vitamins and minerals in the orange juice, but you need to be thinking. So, off topic, yes, coffee is good if it's had in the right way. Next question. I know it's harder to build muscle over 50, but is it impossible? Good morning, Blakey, as well, bro. Good to see you in here. Dude, Blakey, what you need to do is click that link above that says Restream so I can see who it actually is, mate. So I know it's harder to build muscle over 50, but is it impossible? I don't know if you guys saw the post that I just did on the group, on my profile. This question was my stimulus for doing this post. So yes, it is definitely harder to build muscle as you get older. In fact, most people don't build muscle as they get older. They lose muscle by a process called sarcopenia. Okay, sarco is I don't know if it's Latin or Greek or what it is, but it's short for muscle. Sarco, muscle. And penia is the word that represents shrink. So it basically means muscle shrinking. This happens by virtue of aging. It's going to happen. And all you need to do is look at someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and same thing. Like, once you get over around about 50, sarcopenia starts to accelerate. Such to the point that you'll lose something like 25% of their muscle mass by the time you're 70 or 80. And so my argument is that people save up for retirement financially, so they've got enough money, but then they've got all the money and they fucking can't do anything with their bodies to actually enjoy their retirement. This is like so obvious to me, it's not funny. Like, it's so blatantly obvious, but we don't do anything about it. Well, you guys do, but most people just don't do anything about it. So they're so like, oh, I've got to save money, I can't spend money, so I've got the money there. And they get to retirement and they've got the money, but they've got no body. Their house has just been degraded over time. So I believe that you should have a almost like a financial plan, but for muscle. Now, older bodies don't respond the same way as younger bodies. So to those of you that are here in your 20s and early 30s, my recommendation would be is that without the use of steroids, you should build as much muscle as you possibly can. For those of you that saw the engine upgrade, muscle building is really challenging. You've got to get things right. So if you can build any muscle, the old argument of like, I don't want to get bulky or I just want to stay lean, that is so crazy it's not funny. You should be, like retirement, putting away as much muscle as you can put away now while you can still build it. Now, in younger bodies, a little bit of exercise produces a strong signal to the nervous system to actually activate the genes to build muscle and turn protein into muscle. There's a really strong signal from a small stimulus. As we get older, the signal's just not as strong because the nervous system degrades. And this is one of the reasons why it's harder. In addition to that, number two, you have a reduction of the typical muscle building hormone, which is testosterone and growth hormone. And then you have one more thing at play. You have a reduction in the amount of protein that you can absorb into your gut from what you feed it. So I'll give you an example of what I mean there. We give you the guarantee as men to have around 200 grams of protein a day. As women, we suggest around 140 to 150 grams a day. But actually, contrary to probably what you think, if you are older in this group, it's more critical that you hit your protein needs for two reasons. Number one, you have a greater protein turnover, so you need more protein. Secondly, you don't absorb all of that 200 grams or all of that 140 grams like you do when you're younger. So you need to overcompensate. Does this make sense? This is why you see, older men and ladies that you become a bag of bones because you don't have any muscle protein. So it's really, really important to get this right at the top. So this actually kind of brings rise to an interesting question. For any of you that have been around the academy for a while, you know my perspective around steroids. I've never touched them in my life. And the primary reason I have never touched them is because I worry about creating a false high. Okay? So once you've been training for a hell of a long time, like I have, it's really hard to keep putting on muscle. Your body just doesn't support it. And your genetics play a huge role in this. If by taking steroids, you all of a sudden get this false 20%, whatever it is, well, then the moment that you eventually come off the steroids, you're going to have a mental barrier of never quite being as good as you used to be because you raised the ceiling on what's possible, on your natural potential. This is the reason why I have stuck away from it, because for me, that's almost like becoming addicted to cocaine. You're just like constantly feeling high, and the moment you're not high, you feel shit, and you're never going to feel as good as when you were high, right? So this is the reason why I've personally avoided it all of my life. However, I do think that for men and women moving into their maybe 50s, 60s, and 70s, certainly there is a role for hormone replacement therapy for the purpose of quality of life. Okay? So to clarify what I mean there, I think when you're, 20s, 30s, maybe a teenager, I think that for the most part, we're doing it for the wrong reasons. We're doing it for validation. We're doing it because we don't have a good self-esteem and we're trying to feel good in a fake it till I make it way. But when we've moved on to, our 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, it's about quality of life. So to me, it makes sense that some people do, and it'll be interesting to see how I feel if my testosterone plummeted down, how I'd feel about hormone replacement therapy if my testosterone was no longer being produced at the same level. I would definitely consider it. And you can see here that there are two different pictures at play, and I thought this was a really good tangent and discussion to have. All right, next question. Are egg whites... Actually, I will ask the question, gents and women, is this something that you would consider? I'm really interested in actually asking. Is this something that you would consider? Hormone replacement therapy in your 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, if you felt like it was going to improve your quality of life. I've never actually asked that question to you guys as a crowd, but for me, it would be a consideration. All right, next question up. Are egg whites from the egg cartons that are sold in supermarkets better than the liquid egg whites? I'm not going to display the question. The short answer is it's the same thing. Obviously, just the yolks have been removed, but it's the same thing. Okay, so I think they're a really good source, and that's all there is to it. Egg whites, for the record, are very high in protein, and if you like making omelets, then or scrambled eggs, I do think that it's a good idea to have two whole eggs for all the goodness of the yolk, and then bash in some extra egg whites for the extra protein for a very, very low amount of calories. So to me, I think that's a good idea. Okay? So I've never thought about it. M says, if I needed HRT, I'd get it. Yeah, I've heard of it. It's awesome. I think there's a difference between, a lot of people kind of just, yeah, anyway, we've had to talk about it. So this is an interesting question. Some people smoke cannabis before a workout. They claim it helps with focus. Would you recommend, or do you know anything about it? So I'd be interested to know how many of our viewers today are weed smokers or into CBD products, for example. By the way, I don't know what the status is of Australia, but in Canada, it's completely legal. Like literally on every single corner in downtown, it is freely available. You can walk in. There's no prescription needed. You just go in and walk in. My personal, and I've smoked weed occasionally, but I really didn't like it. And this is an opinion, and I'm not saying it's correct, but for me, I just take it one and one with really low motivation. And I think a lot of people that say that it's really great for like they say, oh no, I'm more motivated on the weed. I think that it's a really inaccurate statement to make personally. Should I share my political opinion or not? Or like, okay, if I polarize, then that's okay. I personally think weed is worse than cocaine. That's my opinion. Okay, it's not fact. It's my opinion, and I just think that the pass-on effects of weed are just not very great. However, let's talk about what the science says about performance. So there is no evidence at all that THC or CBD improves performance. Okay, there's zero evidence of this. Further to the point, if you're smoking or vaping, then there are clear health challenges with that. Okay, the lung cancer issue is real. That's not pretend, and we've got to be aware of that. So if there was a link between exercise performance, but it involves smoking weed, then you'd have to consider the impact upon our respiratory capacity, I think is important. Now, there's a couple of people that are commenting, but you haven't authorized Restream. So we'd talk about the idea of medical marijuana or marijuana for the simple idea of pain management. So let's say that you get DOMS really, really bad from your weight training, then there is evidence, and I don't think you need to construct an incredibly good study to understand that it would make sense that if you suffer a lot of pain, either through injury, through DOMS, through joint pain, through old age, and you smoke weed, then that's going to help you recover better. And that is true. The other thing that I think is an interesting aspect is that marijuana for exercises or activities which are long and boring is a good way to give you a warped perception of time. So if you have a repetitive task like running, like cycling, I dare say swimming, although there is the drown factor, and I'm not talking about getting baked stone. I'm talking about, at a recreational level. Certainly, it would help the passage of time. I've known quite a few people that have smoked a joint before they've went for a run, and it's beneficial because the passage of time happens quicker. So they're doing the thing at warp speed, but it's happening at a different. You see the thing there. So if you were training, I used to know a guy who would have a joint, not get baked. He'd just have a joint, and then he'd get on a treadmill and just run for an hour, and beautiful. So I think there's anecdotal evidence, but in terms of performance benefits, there's no link, and I think it's important to note that. Okay, I've got a few more questions, guys. Is it okay working out when you are menstruating? So and by the way, I just want to note that there's a couple of people. I think Marky said CBD balm is amazing for the rehabilitation of the body and also helping with anti-anxiety. I totally agree with that, Mark. Totally. And so what I'm talking about here is more the case for it being utilized as essentially a supplement in sport. Okay. Good point. Is it okay when you are menstruating? Okay, so obviously a question for the ladies. is working out okay when you're menstruating? From a purely scientific perspective, yes. In fact, it actually could be very beneficial. Now, having never had a period in my life and probably never will, I can't comment firsthand on the practicalities, nor the comfort, nor the confidence, or any of those things that happen. In fact, obviously, many women skip their workouts when they're tired and they're in pain for obvious reasons. And the drop in the two hormones, progesterone and estrogen, obviously contribute to that. However, if you are able, so M says, yeah, it's fine. I just don't train if I'm feeling crappy. So yes, this is what I mean, where I've got to be delicate because I have no idea of how it feels. But in terms of what the science says, you are likely to have decreased symptoms associated with those things, like pain and mood enhancement and cramps and headaches, by doing exercise. There is an often non-mentioned thing that comes with doing exercise, and it's the release of endorphins. Endorphins are a special type of hormone that is naturally associated with the high of exercising and feeling good. And so, if you are feeling crappy and you are feeling in pain, and then through your exercise you're having a release of endorphins, then that can go a ways to obviously equaling things out a little bit. Okay? But of course, it's got to come with all the caveats of it. Well, depends on how you're feeling and all those types of things. What is suggested is perhaps a reduction in the intensity of the exercises that you're doing. So maybe you might still go to the gym, but you might just not go as hard. You might dial the intensity down. Or you might opt for exercise modules that perhaps relax you somewhat more. So, for example, yoga or Pilates or stretching or something to that effect is also good as well. So, really great question. Okay, so 3 questions to go. Can you get decent size in your body or muscles by doing calisthenics? So, in short, I'm always remembered every time I go back and stay in Bondi of like how popular calisthenics are with certain fraternities. So calisthenics basically are mostly with the use of some sort of a chin-up bar and, of course, getting down and doing things on the ground body weight. And typically calisthenics are done by guys that are leaner or girls that are leaner and not carrying a lot of body weight. So the challenge with doing calisthenics, if you are carrying a bit of extra weight, is it's going to be pretty hard to actually get into and do until you've dropped the weight. However, for people that like the idea and just refuse to go into a gym, I think it is a good thing to do. It's certainly associated with better flexibility. It's associated with, coordination and endurance. You're going to move more in calisthenics than you are, generally speaking, in doing sort of traditional weight training. But from the point that we always come to in Better Body Academy is the idea that we need to upgrade our engine. There are so many benefits. In fact, I'm going to say this. If there is one, like if you said to me, Jace, what is the one exercise type or module that you could bring in that would have the farthest reaching impact on people in terms of multi-benefits, absolutely it is weight training. Absolutely. Like by a country mile. From everything from flexibility and mobility reasons to injury prevention to building a greater metabolism to offsetting the actual calories that you're eating the only thing it really doesn't do is help your cardiorespiratory system directly by using your heart and lungs. It does help lower your cholesterol level. It does help lower your blood sugar level. So indirectly, it does do those things. So from a muscle building perspective, calisthenics isn't great because you can't overload the muscle. And that's the foundation of growing muscle is you can lift 5 kilos or you can't lift 5 kilos. And then all of a sudden through practice, your muscle adapts, builds enough strength that it can now lift 5 kilos, and now you put it up to 7.5 kilos. And now you can't lift 7.5 kilos. you can't get that same progressive overload from calisthenics because your body weight is largely staying the same. Does this make sense? All right, last question. How does resistance training help strengthen your bones? This is a great question. The short answer in this is that resistance training helps because it causes the body to like forcing the muscles under resistance. When you are using resistance training, you are not only putting the muscles under resistance, but you're putting the skeletal system, the bones, under resistance as well. So the way that you grow muscle is by forcing the muscles to get stronger. The way you grow bone is by forcing the muscles to get stronger. And the way that you can get this tested is that you can go and have a bone density test in a DEXA scan, and it will tell you whether you're potentially at risk of, osteoporosis or something of the like. But what's actually happening is when you're resist this is the reason why typically overweight women, the one benefit is that you're probably not going to have a lot of joint injuries, at least in the 60s and 70s. The reason is because your bones have had to adapt and get stronger, and they go and undergo a process called remineralization, which basically means taking the calcium and the vitamin D and all the good shit that you eat and putting it into the bones, almost like, think of the bones and it's stuffing it in with extra structure, extra meat. Whereas when you have brittle bones, what's actually going on is the bone structure itself is quite weak. So I want you to think of almost like, when you see a washed up piece of like bone or wood, like a dog bone, that a dog's been eating, and you see it on the beach and it's been washed around in the sand, you can actually see it's got hollow portions. That's exactly what's happening when you undergo osteoporosis, and the bones become brittle, and that's why they break. So resistance training, again, following on from the previous question, this is one of the big benefits of resistance training, particularly for women. It's not as much of a problem for men, but for women, it's like, getting to kind of 60 and 70 years old, if you've got brittle bones and they're weak, and that's associated with falls, and then it starts to become, the decline. So another vote cast for resistance training. Guys, really good Q&A today. These questions are getting better and better and better, it seems, by the week. So continue to fly them through via the Success Team, guys. I do appreciate them, and it gives me, obviously, plenty of ammunition to come at you guys with some quality coaching. Dudes and dudettes, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening, afternoon, or morning if it is, and you got the Friday feels to you Aussies. Yeah, we're nearly there in this side of the world. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I tell you what, looking forward to releasing the Gym Gains Guide over the weekend and then kicking off the Mastermind next week. Guys, peace out. I'll see you guys soon.